Good evening, Nick family, and welcome to the Queen's Court. I'm Stephanie, your host. We are here every Monday, 8:30 p.m. Unless the Knicks play on Monday, then it's Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification button, hit that like button, or dislike. As long as you're engaged, we good. Um, Today we're here to talk about the Knicks. We are 7-4 after 11 games, 2-2 last week. A bit of a slide. We were 5-2 the week before. We are, I believe, second in the division and sixth in the Eastern Conference. So we're going to talk about that. Are we satisfied? Is that good? Are we right where we need to be? Are we playing over our heads a little bit too much and not as good as our record says we are? We're going to talk about that as well. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to those listening. Shout out to those that's going to listen later. Shout out to the MBK family of shows. Shout out to friends of MBK, friends of the Queen's Court. Appreciate all of you. I am joined today by Apollo, Andre, Rick Derula of God Up Knicks. If you haven't already, please subscribe to their channel. I really love them. They're engaging. They have great camaraderie. I believe it's two brothers and a cousin, but they'll talk to you more about it and where you can find them and listen to them. So without further ado, Apollo, Andre, Rick Derula, how you guys doing? Glad to
What's
have
going
you.
on? What's
Doing
going on?
excellent. Stephanie, thank you for having us
Thank
on
you.
the Queen's Court.
hmm
Appreciate
You wear the crown here, so anytime you got to check my brother, just go ahead and do that.
Thank you for having us, Steph. Thank you. Thank you for having us, big fan.
Yeah, definitely. Talk a little bit about your show and how it came about before we get into the next 4 games last week.
It really started because my brother and we would literally sit on the phone and just talk about like the Knicks for like 3 hours, like at a time. And just based off of one game we would see, or even a trade or rumors or here or there was always something. And after a while, we were like, we might as well just do this and just let other people hear it, because we enjoy doing it. And I was like, but I need a little bit more. It can't just be me and you. And then I hit up my cousin, and I'm like, what's going on, Rick? Because I don't really know many other big Knicks fans, but besides obviously our family, but the three of us are like the main big Nick fans. So that's when I hit up Rick, and I was like, you want to get down with it? And he was like, yeah, of course. So, and that's how it started. And the Porzingis trade really kicked it off. That's when we started right after that.
Yeah, well, you guys have great chemistry. It definitely shows. And I do the same thing with my friends as well, but they just won't join me. They camera shy. We talk about the Knicks, And when I saw you guys, I'm like, why we can't do that? They camera shy. We got to talk on the phone. We got to text. They don't want to come on the show, but it's all good.
Right.
It's all good. Yeah. All right. So last week, I'm just gonna go over these 4 games really quick. And then we're gonna talk about them. So we played Indiana, we played Milwaukee, we played Cleveland, we played Philly. We played Indiana first. That was a loss. Brogdon was back. He had missed like 3 games prior to that. LeVert had came back recently. That was the game Miles Turner hit 7 3-pointers. Then we played Milwaukee. We won that game. They were, without a few of their players. Chris Middleton wasn't there. Drew Holiday was back. I think he only played 20 minutes, but I'm not taking anything from the Knicks. We were down 19, and we came back and we won that game by 12. So then we played Cleveland. People in the chat taking Cleveland lightly. We trying to tell them they're a good team. They telling us we being negative. Anyway, they came in. Rubio went off. And Cleveland won that game in the Garden. And then yesterday we played Philly. They were without Embiid, Harris, Thibault, of course, Simmons, whatever. We went in there and we won. I mean, we had a 19-point lead. We lost it in the third quarter. In that fourth quarter, Julius came up big. Kemba, there was a Kemba sighting in the fourth quarter. And he hit some big shots for us as well. Drummond, of course, and Embiid's absence. I think he had 14 points, 25 rebounds. But just in general, what do you think about the last week of games? We're 2-2. Anything stood out from you during that time? Andre, I'll start with you, and then I'll go to Apollo, and Is Apollo here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm at the bottom.
I thought you
I'm all
left.
the way at the bottom.
And Rick the Rule. Anything stand out?
Well, the whole thing with the East is like a toss up right now. It just seems like when you see where Brooklyn is and they're supposed to be at the top. You look at Milwaukee. I don't know what's going on with them. They're supposed to be at the top. And I think, is this our second time we beat Milwaukee? Did we get two?
First, we played them again next week.
Yeah.
All right, so we beat them. We beat Chicago. We beating these teams, and like Indiana was one of those teams where, as a fan, you just want the Knicks to win all of them. I always bet whenever we have a 5-game outlook, I'm like 5-0 Knicks because I would love for that to happen. But the loss to Indiana, I guess it could have went either way. It just looked like their energy sucked. The Milwaukee, that was a nice win. The Knicks have a way of making things interesting. Like they let teams back into it. And they take their foot off the gas, and sometimes, but the Cleveland game just drove me nuts.
Right.
For Ricky Rubio to have a career night against, I can't stand when they allow that to happen.
Right.
But other than that, it was Cleveland is not as bad as everybody thought they would be this season. I know they got one of their main guys got hurt and everything, but that was a disappointment. We're supposed to get that win, and the Knicks have a habit of playing down to the competition. And I think they did that because then we'll beat a team like Milwaukee, we'll beat Philadelphia, which is great to see. But, when we play those teams like Orlando, I want to see them, put your foot in the gas and, just finish them off. Let's be professional and finish the game. But 2-2 sounds about right. I think we're still tied for, 6, but it's just 4, 5, 6, and 7 all tied. Whatever the case, but we have the 6th spot, and I'm okay with 7-4. I feel like we should be 8 and 9 and 2, or 8 and 3. I feel, but 7-4 isn't horrible either.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
all right.
Me, Indiana. That game was that hurt a lot. Mainly because you don't really see. I think we would have had that game in the bag if Turner doesn't go for 7 3-pointers. And I had mentioned on our show that every time he hit a 3, it was almost like 6 points because he would hit a 3, and then we would come down, and then we would miss a shot, and they would go back, and they would hit a 2 or 3, and then the lead would balloon just like that. And it happened over and over again. We would bring it down to 2, and then it happened again. So it was frustrating, but I just think they took advantage of a mismatch that game, and it worked out for them. Milwaukee, we won the game. They were missing Middleton, but you know how it is. If we were missing some guys, we wouldn't expect to. It's just the same. I say it all the time. If a star is out or a main guy is out, there's always somebody that's there who is looking forward to prove that they need to be there. You know what I mean? And there's a bunch of them on every single team. You know what I mean? It's the NBA. Then what was it? Cleveland. I think we took them lightly. I think a lot of people are taking them lightly. To be honest with you, they're a lot better than people think. Evan Mobley is a beast. He was going off that game.
That kid looks good.
He's gonna be a star, without a doubt. Timely buckets by Garland. Colin got hurt. Hopefully he recovers fast for that. I think it was a torn meniscus. But I think we took them a little bit lightly. We thought we were going to go in there and just get a victory. So that's what happens in the league when you do that. And last night versus Philadelphia, it was a roller coaster of a game. We got the win. It's not the way we wanted it, but we had a bunch of those last year, and it helped build our character. So I'm pretty satisfied with it so far, to be honest.
Okay, all right. Rick,
I think my cousin he summed it up real nice when he said the Knicks like to make it interesting. I bet you if you laid out those 4 games ahead of time and said, okay, which ones are the Knicks going to win, which one are they going to lose, and diehard Knicks fans, crazy Knicks fans would have said, okay, we're going to win all 4 of them.
Like Drake.
I'm not going to name anybody. I'm just going to say that delusional. No, but.
Nobody would have picked that we were going to lose to Cleveland.
I did. I did.
Oh,
I
you
said
did say
He
that.
did.
I
He
did
did
say
say
that,
that.
and that's
He
why I
did.
kind of feel like it was my fault we lost. But I think I think for the teams that we lost against, it's usually players that we're not really watching for. Like for Turner to go off at the 3-point line and Ricky Rubio to go off at the 3-point line. You're not
Cool.
expecting those things. You're not planning for those things. So I think a lot of it has to deal with matchups and lineups, and that's more of a coaching thing. But
I was about to say, you don't plan for it, but when it happens, you would
You
think there would
adjust.
be some
right.
adjustment. And I got on Mitch a little bit, but then I said, I don't know the assignments. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
usually you would not camp in the key if you're playing somebody who's a 3-point shooter, especially
Right.
after they shoot 1 or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
he
You say it all the
And-
time.
Or
Like,
six.
all right, he's still open. Like, what's going on over here?
right.
Yeah.
And he was just one pass away. It's not even like he was on the weak side. He was one pass away.
Yeah.
But then what I was thinking was our perimeter defense was so bad.
Mm.
Maybe Mitch was like, listen, I know Kemba's about to get beat right now. Let me just stay a little bit in the key to recover. And he just kept leaving Miles, wide open.
Yeah.
And I would have thought there would have been a timeout to say, look, let him get
This
beat
is what we're gonna
first.
do.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
you gotta stay up on him.
Steph, do you think, because I see this like every single game, do you think that they overhelp, especially like they leave someone's always open in the corner? Do they overhelp on this team, or is that like the scheme, or is that what I don't get it? Like if you have a
Right.
shooter in the corner,
Right.
stick with him. Like
Right.
don't leave that person, right? I don't.
This is what I think is happening.
Mm.
Our perimeter defense is poor from the guards. RJ's playing pretty good, right, at his position, but Kemba and Fournier is not.
Yeah.
So if their guy gets into the key, now another guy has to step up and guard their man. Then somebody else have to guard who they left. And so now the Knicks are in full rotation, scrambling around trying to cover
Mhm.
because one person got beat up top. And we're going to talk
Right.
about this more. As much as I do think our additions were upgrade over Elf and Bullock, defensively, it is just creating problems for us with these guards being able to get into the key. And now we in full rotation. It seems like
Right.
on every possession, scrambling around, and you can't move as fast as the ball.
Yeah.
So if they're
Right.
passing the ball crisply, they're going to find an open shot. And that's what's been happening.
Yeah, I agree. Our point of attack defense has been pretty bad from the start of the season. Even in the game versus who was it? The Cavs, I believe. When we played the Cavs, I don't think Kemba played, but the point of attack defense was still terrible.
But still, it was.
You know what I mean? So
It was.
it's a systematic thing. I think the guys really have to get it together. And that's really the main weakness. I think everything else we can really, make up for. But that point of attack defense, I think when we played the Magic, Cole Anthony took full advantage of it and just went off that second game in the Garden, of course, but he's been doing it all season if you really look at what Cole's been doing.
Right.
But, we got to figure out that point of attack defense, and that's my main concern.
Yeah, we're gonna get into it. I got a serious question for you guys when we get into the defense. But before I even move into team trends, I just want to have one more question. Right now, we are 11-4, which is 63.6% winning percentage, which is 52 games if we stay on this pace. Do you think this is, where this team is? 52. This particular current roster, 52 win team, we can continue at this pace? Or do you think that it'll probably be a bit less than this with this current roster?
I think I think we said, I think I gave the team 50. I think we said in the beginning of the season that we can be a 50 game winning team this season. I think that's about right. I think that the Knicks dropped, if they can fix the making it interesting part and finish teams off, I think they definitely can be a 52 win team.
Okay.
I think at this level, I just think of where we were last year. We started off the year last year similar. I wouldn't say exactly the same, but it was kind of similar. There was some struggles here or there, but we looked a lot better than we did the year before, obviously, and then clearly the Derrick Rose trade was the punch we needed. Maybe there's another punch needed somewhere, and I just think that might be something that they're looking for, is just to see, and I think the guys are really together. I don't think they really want to break up the unit too much, because the chemistry is starting to look pretty good, even though they're not together with the schematic things. But I think they really like the squad. I just think that there has to be another move made, just to make our defense a little bit better, especially with how we defended last year.
Right. So who goes if they make the defense better?
I mean,
don't say it. Don't you dare say it.
What do you think I was gonna say?
Oh, I want to hear this. I want to hear this.
What do you think I was gonna say? No, I mean, if we have to make a trade, in my opinion, I don't think they would make a big trade. I think it'll just be like a role player kind of thing.
Right.
I'm not sure they really want to mess up the starting unit unless it's for someone that they're sure will make a huge difference, like a Dame Lillard, like everybody keeps saying. I'm not sure how realistic that is, but as long as it doesn't include RJ, you know what I mean. But that's another story. But I just think that there's some pieces that they can fix, or pieces that they can go get for this roster that can help them fill up some holes that they have on their defense, the defensive end.
So what I'm hearing you say is you don't think this pace is sustainable without a change, even a minor one.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I think they could do that and more if they just decide to show up. I think the Indiana game, it just showed that they didn't want it enough. They didn't their body movements and actions. It felt like they were there, but they weren't really there. Mm-hmm. And I feel like when they showed up to Philly, if they show up with that type of presence and that type of dominance and attitude, they can do 52.
Yeah,
they could do 60. I mean, like,
wow.
It all depends on who.
We gonna do 60 this season? We getting 50?
No.
He didn't say that.
He said we could. He said we could.
I said we could. I don't think we will though.
Oh, you talking about potential? All right.
Yeah, potential. I think we'll be shy. I think we'll be shy 50. I think we'll be in the high 40s.
At this pace,
if we play, at this pace, yeah.
Wow.
I think we'll be shy 50. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Apollo. I think that I don't think this is sustainable without a roster change, and I don't think it has to be a big roster change. But I think that perimeter defense has to be shored up. And this was a later question, but I guess we can get into it right now. Do you think our defensive woes is just about effort and execution and gelling, or do you think it's a personnel issue? I tend to think it's a personnel issue, and it needs to be shored up with a move here and there. Doesn't even have to be a big move. For example, and I mentioned this before, Brunson is a free agent. Brunson out of Dallas, playing well for them. He's an unrestricted free agent next season. They have to sign him to an extension. If they don't sign him, maybe if they thinking they're not going to sign him, maybe he's up for a trade. Again, I don't think we need something big, but I do think we need somebody that can guard that position, keep those other guards out the lane, and hit a three. And we saw last year how with Elf and Bullock, them just doing that, and Elf didn't even hit the three. Just playing their position, being able to hit a three, how much that helped our defense. So anyway, the question is, do you think it's an effort, execution, gelling issue as far as the defense, or do you think it's a personnel issue?
I think it's a combination, but I think the personnel issue really falls on Tibbs. I feel like he could really use those young kids that we just got a little bit more. I feel like when you have the assignment, sometimes we get in situations where we're within 3, within 4, and if you got Kemba out there, sometimes Kemba is he's a liability on the defensive end.
Right.
And he probably shouldn't be out there chasing around these young kids. You have these young kids chasing around these other young kids, and even for Rose, sometimes he could get like a little worn down or whatever the case. I think you have Grimes and these young guys, and you could use them in situations for a few minutes at a time. Sometimes I think it's that, but I do think those games that we lost, I don't know if it's, we just had one back to back. I don't know if that game every other day is almost as tiring because, sometimes we'd have a game and then you have 2 days and then you have a game, but it just seems like almost like they're not interested. So those games that we lost, it just seemed like they lack interest, lack motivation, and then missing shots. I don't know if the guys were getting tired, and that's why I think maybe Tibbs is very stubborn. I think from what we all understand, what we hear, what we know from seeing how he uses his personnel, he's very stubborn, doesn't want to play the young kids, but I think that he probably should. If we didn't make a move, if we didn't make a trade, I think that he has to utilize those young kids more in situations where, these kids are hungry. They want to play. They want to impress the coach. They want to stop people. And I think the 2 kids that we got are way better defenders than Kemba is.
Oh, no
I don't think Kemba needs a DMP. I just think that maybe he needs less minutes in some games.
Right.
Some games he starts off really good and he's knocking down like he'd be 4 or 6 or something like that. And then he cools off, it seems like, towards the end of the game. And that's when you start to use the youngsters or something like that. So,
Okay. Anybody else? Personnel versus we just need to gel and execute better?
I think for sure it's a personnel thing. I don't think it's the gelling. I think they like playing with one another. I see the camaraderie. I see the excitement. One thing that it may answer the question of why they're over helping is because they know that there's not that defense that we had the last season, and that's kind of like the Band-Aid. So maybe a move will have to be made, but personnel for sure.
I have to agree. I kind of agree with both of you guys. I think it's in some cases it's a little bit of both. I do feel like it's personnel. But like Dre said, I think we have what we need in the bench with the young guys, but is Tom really going to play young guys? You know what I mean? And that's the big thing. Grimes and McBride literally do everything that he wants at their position. They just don't have the experience at this point. And I think that's what Tibbs can't risk, the experience that they don't have. And that's understandable. But it does, in a way, and I got to be careful how I choose my words here, especially with the chat. You gotta.
We got your back. Don't worry.
Yeah. You start to look back at, all right, well, what was Elfrid actually good at last year? And you start to see the point of attack defense. And trust me, I don't want to look at what Elfrid was good at. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to look for it.
Wasn't a whole lot.
It wasn't a whole lot. But I mean, it's clear now how valuable he was at that position. Defensively. And Reggie as well. So, I think that, like I said, there might be a move that needs to be made because I don't think he's going to trust the young guys. I don't think he'll include the young guys in any trade. I think he likes them enough to groom them and use them when the time is right. But I just think as of right now, that it might be a personnel thing defensively.
Okay. All right.
But really quick, Steph, before you move on, who would what position I should say would you have in mind if there was an upgrade that you think that would happen?
I really think the point guard, but I do think another wing defender it would be good for us as well. I think having one bad defender you could probably hide, but having 2, and I didn't think coming into the season that Fournier would be bad. So I think there's a little more upside defensively for him than it is for Kemba. Right. But I think one of those spots, we need to have a really good defender. I think you can make up for one person here and there, but it's hard to make up for 2. And don't forget Julius and his lapses. I mean, he's really good, in my opinion, on the ball, but his off the ball defense,
very lax.
Sometimes
it was okay last game, but overall, not good.
Yeah, he just has this thing where he comes in and he just thinks teams are just gonna lay down for him. That's the feel I get sometimes. He just walks in there with the cool walk, like they're just gonna be scared of him because he's there. And I just you have to instill fear in these guys. Nobody's laying down.
Right.
I think Julius, he does this thing where sometimes, especially off of switches and while they're attacking the basket, where he just doesn't, he'll let them go. And
Right.
more than anything, that drives me insane because I mean, you might as well just not play defense for the entire 24 seconds and just walk back on the other side. Because if you're just gonna let them attack the basket, that's clearly the whole point of basketball is to stop them from scoring, and that's the easiest basket in the game.
He's afraid of the fouls.
You're afraid of the foul. And my thing is that would RJ in that situation let them guys go? No, RJ's gonna pick up that foul because he's that competitive. And then he'll be like, well, whatever. If I got to play with 4 fouls for, you know what I mean, in the first half, per se, you know what I mean, then I'll do that. But I want to see that out of Julius more. Where I want to see that you care more about the team winning than how many fouls you have.
Yeah,
you know
but it's contagious. I think that when your leader starts playing some defense and getting physical out there, I think everybody else is like, oh, now we gotta.
As you saw last game,
if our leader is doing this, I gotta go out there. I can't slip.
Right.
So I think it starts from the top down in terms of who the guy is on the team.
Right. And shout out to the chat. Randall is not the problem on defense. Randall is a top 10 two-way player. Listen, I'm not talking about on the ball. When he decides he's going to play on-ball defense against his guy, he's okay. I saw him go head-to-head with Anthony Davis last year. You know, I'm talking about off the ball when somebody gets beat and they drive right past Randall, He doesn't try to step in and get a charge. He doesn't he just lets them go. So I mean, you bring up a good point. Maybe he's not trying to get into foul trouble. You know, I mean that could be part of it. I will say, what as porous as our perimeter defense is, Randall, I think, is going to have to become more of a two-way player off the ball because those guys are coming into the lane left and right, and you can't just leave it up to Mitch. You know, we're going to need him also, and if that means to conserve energy by not bringing the ball up, so be it.
So be it.
You know,
and Tibbs even said that you know, Julius just the reason why he didn't like to play Julius with Obi was because of the defense. Right. So, you know, and when they started to play a little bit together, I forgot what game it was this year, but they played a long stretch together and it looked well because they played well defensively. Right. And I think that's the key. You know what I mean? If Julius can bring that intensity every night where Tibbs can say, well, all right, let's just throw Julius at the 5 for extended minutes. Then we can do that. You know what I mean? Right. So that we're not getting torched from 3 by Miles Turner because Mitch doesn't want to leave the paint. You know what I mean? And that doesn't mean that I want to get rid of Mitch or anyone wants to get rid of Mitch. I just think that each game has adjustments that you have to make. Right. And I think we have the personnel to win every single game. It's just that he has to put the right people in at the right time. That's just my opinion, though.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's put up really quick. I have one more defensive question, then I want to move to the offense, and then I want to talk about some individual players. So let me see if I can. Oh, it's not in here. But anyway, the Knicks defensive rating is 109.7, which is 25th in the league. But the opponent field goal percentage, right? The percentage that they're holding the opponent to is 43.3%, which is 6th in the league. The opponent 3-point percentage is not very good, 36, which is 23 in the league, and we're 10th in rebound. My question is, are you more concerned about how many points we're giving up per game, or are you happy with the fact that we're holding them to 43.3%, which is sixth in the league?
I'm more concerned about the points because we give up threes like crazy. It just seems like teams come in and they're gonna have a field day from the 3-point line. Like I said, I think that the Knicks overhelp, and that one part right there, I felt like if we fix that, you know, because the guy shooting that 3 shouldn't even be getting that pass half the time. You know what I mean? I feel like if the guy's in the paint and he's struggling with Julius down there or whatever it is, let him finish. Don't give him the outlet to the guy in the corner for a wide open 3. I'd rather that guy in the paint try to finish than the guy in the corner and have a career night. Right. And so that's the part that's driving me nuts. We're giving up threes.
Yeah.
And like this 23rd. Is a threes league. Right.
That 36%.
Yeah,
Oh my
it's
goodness.
outrageous. Yeah,
Yeah.
The 3-point part drives me nuts every game. Even games like we have it, and these teams are coming back. We're up 19, we're up 11, we're up 15, and like we give it up. You guys are coming down and they're just knocking down threes, and like nobody. It just seems like everybody can knock down a three now in this league, and it's just like we can't let people keep shooting. I'd rather them just, if they make a layup, that's one thing, momentum and all of that. But with the three, it's outrageous. Something's got to give with the 3-point shooting on the defensive side.
Yeah. But I think that goes back to what we were talking about. Once guys get into the lane and you start scrambling, so everybody, they get into the lane, everybody is collapsing in the lane, leaving the 3-point shooters open. And you're right. By the time you scramble back to a 3-point shooter, it's out of their hands.
Yeah. Forget it.
Yeah. It's definitely too late.
Some nights we get lucky that they miss.
Yeah.
If they're having a bad night, then we look good. But they really gotta. I don't like to see the guy get the ball. Like somebody should have been scared to get it to him because you were too close.
Right.
So I wonder what that is. Sometimes I wonder if that's what Tibbs wants them to do, because it's like you'll look sometimes, like you said, there's like 5 guys in the paint. One guy's dribbling and everybody collapses from everywhere. Then they have multiple options to get it to this guy, this corner, this guy, that corner.
Right.
So I wonder where the problem is with that.
Yeah, I think some discipline on the defensive end. Everybody doesn't need to rotate to the ball when
Especially when you're already guarding someone who's either hot or already known as a shooter.
Right. Rubio after the third 3-pointer, it's like, all right, stay on him. He's having a good night.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And matter of fact, do what you can and even try to deny him the ball if you can. But that takes a certain amount of defensive player to be able to
keep it out of his hands.
Right. Especially for Rubio. And I'll just go into my point. Opposing 3-point percentage, it's just terrible. Yeah, you can't give up that many threes, and it's almost uncontested every single time. You know what I mean? And that's like, if they're contested threes, like, all right, cool. They worked hard for that. A lot of the times it's like they know, all right, just 2-3 passes and somebody's going to drop off and you're good. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what happens. Games like with Rubio, the Rubio game, and I'm calling it the Rubio game because he went off. Clearly it was the game of his career. But he just was walking into threes while he was guarded. And that's what I'm saying. At that point, you let him get way too comfortable. Right. You know what I mean? You let him walk into a few threes. He's taking these shots. You're getting over this screen. Man. I'm going over every screen. I'm pushing you inside the arc, and we're going to guard you as a team. I'm not going to sit here and go under the screen and stop you and try to stop you from drop. No, you're hot at this point. You're not looking for
I'd have
the
pulled
drop.
Jalen Rose, and I'd have gotten his landing space, and then
I was just about to say I would have drew a foul or something just to break that momentum.
Something, man. Yeah. Bring the team together or something. That one of those moments needed to happen for sure.
Man.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
We definitely have to stop giving up. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say we definitely have to stop them from even scoring. Like the percentage of their field goals will change if the defense is there. So if we can just stop them from getting off shots, get that defense in there, get in the passing lane, and do all those things, that percentage will change. But I think we got to stop them from getting all those points.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Shout out to the chat: Quiet Money, Margaret Edwards, Brandon McNeely, David L, Kerry Cox, Sherwin, and all of you guys who are here with the Queen's Court MBK every week. I definitely appreciate you guys. True Knicks fans. This Knicks community is, I don't think there's anything like it. We get other fans from other teams. I'm like, y'all don't have a podcast. All right, let's talk about our offense now. Points, we're averaging 111.7, which is third in the league. 22.5 assists, which is 22nd in the league. We were higher a bit earlier in the season. We're shooting 45.4% from the field, which is 14th in the league. Our 3-point percentage is 5, which is 36.5. I meant to put 3-point attempts, but I think we're up there in terms of attempts, 4th in made. So the Knicks, as far as really wanting to target the 3 pointers coming into this season, they did that. We're
Yeah.
still hitting them. We hit them well
Yeah.
last year as well. We're hitting them well this year, but we're taking more. And I think that's what's helping our points, 107.3. Our pace is back down to 27th in the league. We were playing with pace, a little more pace earlier.
Yeah.
That's back down to 98.05. But, just in general, your thoughts on our offense this past week and this season overall. Do you like it?
I like it at times. At times I do. When they're gelling, it looks great. When everybody's on
Right.
fire, it looks amazing. It looks like one of the best offenses in the league.
Right.
But when Julius can't hit a shot, when Kemba can't hit a shot, when Fournier can't hit a shot, it does not look good. And I think that there's just chemistry. Yeah, I do want to say some of it is chemistry. Because this is, what is it, 11 games? These guys have only been together for 11 games, and they haven't played a lot of the teams in the league that they're going to play.
Right.
But it's early, but I just feel as though I don't know. To me personally, I think that, like, with the pace that you mentioned, I think that's something that other teams have figured out, and it needs to be addressed. If not, we got a long season ahead of us if it's not addressed. I definitely think, like you said earlier in the season, we were doing well with that. For it to drop off as hard as it did to 27th is atrocious. So, Rose hasn't been himself recently. Quickly, clearly hasn't been himself.
Right.
So, those are like two fastest guards from last year. Players in general. So, I think the pace is going to get a little bit better. I don't think it's going to stay there, though. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think small ball would help our pace as well. But go ahead.
I think that, yes, the small ball, I remember, I forgot which game it was when he did the small ball and it worked that game. But I think, of course, again, it's situational. But overall, the offense hasn't really excited me. Quickly seems like before last night, he was having a real tough time. Yeah, air balls and just, bad shots, and him getting used to the new foul calling or the lack of foul calls. I think that's a big part. I already felt like the Knicks were never really getting calls either way prior to the season, and I just feel like it got worse this season. Whenever they get a call in their favor, I'm surprised because it just seems like they never really get calls. And so as far as that,
they stole a couple the last game.
Yeah. And as it relates to Quickly, just to see him out there struggling is like hard to watch. I think Obi has been doing well. I think RJ, I was about to say JR. Jesus. I think RJ is doing well. I like him, and I think with Julius, he's okay. You have these games. Sometimes they look like they're stagnant. They don't know what to do when everybody plays the zone. They don't know what to do. They knock down threes. They look good. They don't. The team is stagnant. They don't know where to go. Everybody's dribbling too much, and it just seems like they get out of sorts.
Right.
But I haven't seen it quite click yet, where the Knicks look good on a nightly basis, or the identity. Sometimes Kemba's bringing up the ball. Sometimes Julius is bringing up the ball. Sometimes Rose is scoring. And what I love about Rose is if we're down 15 or we're up 15, he continues to attack the basket, and we get those little 2 points. We keep scoring those points that we need. And I think that sometimes guys, because they can hit the three, they just keep shooting the three. It's just like everybody wants to shoot the three, and they're just letting them go, and it's like, Fournier could shoot, you know what I'm saying? But sometimes he has a bad night. But I haven't seen anything that excite. There's like little spots where it's like, it's exciting. But the encouraging thing is the Knicks to be 7-4, and still not really look that good yet.
Still trying to figure it out.
I think that we still have a high ceiling,
Yeah. I gotta stop speaking after these two, man. They take all the good stuff.
All the points.
You go first. You go first next time, cuz.
Right.
And that's the end of the show. Thanks for coming. No. but it's true. Like I feel that I don't like it. It's easy to read. They're gonna shoot a lot of threes, and then they're gonna drive and get some layups. I want to see some more mid-range jump shots. Like I feel like you get better looked at the basket if you stop and pop. Like they don't do that at all. Yeah. And I think Rose will probably be the only one that comes close to it, but it's more of a floater. Right. So I would like to see a little bit more of that little what is it? Versatility.
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 That's
versatility.
Versatility. Versatility. Versatility.
Tomato. We got
tomato.
you.
Right, here you go, Steph.
There you go. But if they do a little bit of more
versatility.
Can I get some more versatility over here, please? Go ahead, Rick. Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. I want to see a little more versatility. I want to see a little mid-range instead of the three. I'm great that it's great that we're shooting at a high percentage like that, but it would be nice to see some more mid-range jump shots.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I mean, I like that. I like that we're moving the ball more. There was like a game or two where we were pretty stagnant with Julius in the post and everybody just standing around. But since then, I think, we've been moving the ball around. We're getting easier opportunities. I think Fournier is getting really good shots. He's just not hitting. And that's why I feel more encouraged about him. Those shots are open. They're not going down. I think they will at some point. And then people are going to see, listen, we should know Fournier. He came in and lit us up a few times over the years, right? So we got to know what he can bring.
More than a few, yeah.
Right. He's off right now. But in terms of, and this is my next question, what are your thoughts on Julius in this offense? I think it was Rick who talked about it earlier, learning how to pick his spots, like learning when to pass it around, get everybody involved, and learning when, okay, we need a basket and I'm going to get it, or we haven't scored in a while, I'm going to get it, and kind of knowing when to do it. Because I think sometimes he's hogging the ball too much, but then there have been a few games where I thought he was a bit too passive, and just like that game, he took 9 shots. Like, you cannot take 9 shots in any game, period. So like just trying to find that good mix between, when do I go for mine and when do I pass it around and keep the offense moving and keep the defense moving? Because if we're stagnant on offense, the defense doesn't have to work.
Right. It's easy for him.
Right. So your thoughts on Julius in this offense and what you've seen either this week or this season?
Go, Ricky. You
go, Rick. You go first.
Yeah, go.
All right.
We mixed it up.
All right. What Julius did well last season that I really liked is the first quarter, he would make sure the team got active and he would pass the ball a lot, and then he would get to work and then he would score his 20 points. What he does this season that he's not doing last season is he's trying to get himself going first and then share it. And the intensity of his offense, it wavers because of that. And the fact that he's not a consistent shooter, sometimes he's, lights out, and other times he can't even find the basket. I think he needs to, exactly what we were saying before, pick his spots, pass that ball around, make sure the team is involved, and then he can, put on the cape and save New York basketball, because he's going to get 20 points. He's gonna do it. So he needs to get the team involved so that people like Fournier can get that rhythm, because once he gets that rhythm, he's good. But once he can't find it, he's off. So I think as the leader of the team, Julius, he should be able to get him going.
But I don't see my whole problem with Julius getting people involved. It's not his position. Like I just feel like it's kind of because he's the star of the team, he shouldn't be the distributor. You know what I mean? He shouldn't be the one getting people in the rhythm. You know what I'm saying? If he's posting up 30 feet from the basket, you know what I mean? You limit like your view on what's happening on the court. There's only a few people he can actually really get the ball to. And really quick before we move on, I think Lex Destroyer put something up there really good for you, Ricky. And he put versatility and vitality, and that's how you have versatility. And I think that's the word that you
I'm combining the two. But I wanted to combine the two.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, that's what you meant to do the whole time. So, I don't think it's his. I do think that he comes in and feels like he has to do so much, and he does too much. So he's trying to dribble, he's trying to pass, but it's easy to defend when you get all the way in the paint and there's nobody. You can't pass it right behind you. You know what I'm saying? You're leaving your feet. So you got to hit somebody in the corner. These guys get to the corner, they can steal a pass, or whatever the case, they shut you down. And I do think he's also worried about picking up fouls. They pick up a lot of offensive fouls when he barrels into the paint.
Right.
So sometimes he's trying to do like a sidestep. It just seems like he's got a lot going on. He starts thinking, and then it just throws him off, and it throws the whole offense because everybody's watching and they don't know who's going to get the pass. And it just kind of messes up the flow, which is why I don't think that we should be running the offense through him. I think we should be using him, pick his spots, like that little spot on the side there. He likes by the baseline, and he does that jumper. That's his favorite shot. Because a couple seasons ago, it was like the spin move was his favorite thing. And that really wasn't working. But I think we should run the ball. We should run these plays more through our point guards like they should. But that's me. I don't know.
Right. Apollo?
What? Can you repeat the original question again?
Yeah. What do you think about Jules in this offense, either this past week or just in general?
I think this season, he's struggling a tad bit with just there being more people who need the ball in their hands. And I don't think it's something that he won't be able to get over. I just think that, like I said in my show, he definitely used to, pardon my kids. He was someone who was the most improved player. He had a one or two MVP votes, I believe, or maybe one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure that got in his head, and over the offseason, he wanted to get better and do more and just be more of that guy. But then bringing in more people, it might have been a little bit more frustrating for him to not get the ball every possession like he's used to.
Right.
But I think that there is an adjustment period that needs to happen, and I think it's been going on already, obviously. But he needs to get used to the amount of people who need the ball and just at the right times. Because just like you said, the game where he took 9 shots, that can't happen. We don't want you. We want you to look for the team. We don't want you to not look for your shot because that's not who you are. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't care what team Julius Randle is on. If he's not looking for a shot, that's not going to work. You know what I mean? So I think that he needs to assert himself, but he also needs to play just with more consistent basketball IQ from game to game, highs and lows through the adjustments, because if he's going to be the guy, he has to just do it. We can't expect RJ to do those things just yet. He hasn't gotten there. But Julius has to be that guy. He has to be more efficient. He has to be more consistent as the leader. And it's that simple. As the leader, if you're not consistent, no matter what you're doing, offensively, defensively, it's just not going to be cohesive, especially offensively.
Yeah. I mean, when you say consistent, are you mean consistency in terms of his effort, or?
Sometimes it's effort. Sometimes it's energy. And to me, it could be two different things, because he could have the energy that game, and then there's certain plays he just takes a play off, but it's an important play. You know what I mean? And we see him. It's so obvious because he's usually involved with the play some way, shape, or form. He's not just out in the perimeter. So a lot of these plays, when they happen, it's like, all right, Julius, you could have did a little bit better there, but cool. You know what I mean? But yeah, I just think just more consistency with his energy and effort from game to game.
But just to be clear about Julius, I'm sorry, Steph. But like Pete said, he said, why we getting on Julius? And it's not that we getting on him. I just think what we could see better from him, because I feel like he has his games where he's excellent. Like last night, that boy was knocking it down. He was knocking down threes. But I don't think every game is going to be typical like that. What Joshua said about consistency. And I think that sometimes he walks in as though, it's going to work out like this tonight, whatever the case may be.
Instead of reading the game,
Yeah, but he is, because sometimes that's a skill, reading the game, and as it comes to you, you take it. But he is one of I think so far our best player. Well, between him and RJ. And I think he's dope. I wouldn't want to let him go. Like, he's one of those guys. I think he's a staple in New York. Big time. He came up with that whole "we here." Like, that's one of my favorites.
We here. Right.
Yeah. Without Julius, I really don't know what the team would be like without him, though. I think that boy, he's a monster. Like last night, he's a workhorse. Like, you can see he was working, and it was just working out for him. It's just that in those games where it doesn't, and other people got to get involved. It's just a matter of how he figures that part out. But like again, it's still early in the season. New teammates, you know, there's still some things we're gonna figure out. It's not we're not like mid-season form just yet.
Right. And I think it's new teammates, but I also think this is a new role for Randall too. I mean, it's just like 1 year removed from being like the best player on the team. Did not play well in the playoffs. I'm sure he heard all the smoke, you know, and he came in this season like trying to prove that, in my opinion, that I'm that guy. I'm still that guy. This wasn't a 1 year. I wasn't a 1 year wonder. I'm still able to carry this team, because if you remember in that Boston double overtime game, you know, what he was yelling, you know, to the crowd whenever he hit a shot, you know, that was all pent up from probably what he was reading over the summer.
For sure. Without a doubt.
Yeah, let you know, I'm still that guy. But you bring up a good point. You got to be able to read the game, because every game is a different challenge. You know, every game you may not need to score. Maybe, you know, you'll need, you know, to distribute the ball more. Maybe you need to rebound more. Maybe you need to play better defense. Every game is going to bring a different challenge. And you got to be able to read in and say, what is this game asking of me tonight? You know? So hopefully he'll get better. He's not, he's in his prime, but I still think his game is growing. Right. I still think, you know, there's some things he needs to learn. So I don't think he's peaked yet. So I know a lot of people say that, you know, he's a low IQ player and they don't think it's going to get better, but I think it will. I think he does have room to improve. And we said after last season, or at least I said, the work he needed to do wasn't in the gym. Like the work he needed to do was up here, you know? So anything else on the offense? Anything else on Julius? I want to get into highlighting a few players. I want to talk about our new additions, Kemba and Fournier. And time permitting, I would like to talk about RJ. But anything else on the offense or Julius before we move into individual players?
One thing I like about Julius, the last point, that he always talks about watching the tape. And I just think that any player that watches the tape is going to absorb it. You know what I'm saying? You see different looks, you see different teams and stuff like that. He says he likes to watch the tape. So I think as long as he's watching the tape, like you said, he still has a ceiling. I think he's in his prime. And I think this is why he goes hard sometimes. I feel like he knows like this is the time, the opportunity he has, and he has to make the best of it. And hopefully he just balances that out with how it works out and how it looks every game. But yeah, I think he's working on the IQ. He'll be fine. I just think other players sometimes need to compliment him. It seems like he likes Fournier. He likes to go back and forth with Fournier on the give and go and that type of thing. But some nights Fournier's not having a good night either. So it affects his numbers also. You know, and sometimes it looks like he's thinking he's about to pass it to somebody, then he's like, nah, let me pass it over here. So, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
A little of a balancing act there.
Yeah, for sure. And we're going to talk about Fournier in more in depth. Shout out to Still Nick fans. Tune into Still Nick fans recap prediction show right after the Queen's Court. It starts at 10:15. And remember that it is pre-recorded. He was on the show last week and his show was playing at the same time. Like, what's going on?
Good. Rick, you had something to say about that? I know you look like you had something to say.
On the offense?
Yeah. Because
we're gonna get into the players, so it's probably gonna come up.
Only thing I had to say was I do want to appreciate that Julius always takes responsibility when he messes up. You know what I mean? And that's a trait that you want every leader on your team to have. And you know, that's something that he takes pride in. And you know, that's shout out to Julius for that, because a lot of guys just don't have it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He's a stand-up guy for sure. For sure. All right. So we're going to highlight a few players and we're going to get right into it. We're getting into Kemba Walker. So I guess, you know, what did you think when we signed him? And what do you think now? Do you still have that same opinion when we signed him? Has it changed after seeing him 11 games? I think most of you know what I thought about it. I probably was the only one not happy when we signed Kemba Walker. I got a lot of smoke for that. But yeah, what was your initial, you know, thoughts when we signed Kemba, and how you feeling about it now?
That's a good question.
Go ahead, Jay. All right. So the reason why I was happy, me being from New York, of course, and Kemba being from New York, I was excited.
Mhm.
By the time we made all of these moves in the offseason, I don't know if we didn't have a point guard yet. So we were
Yes, I
like,
remember.
what's going on?
Mhm.
And everybody knows I was big on Dinwiddie. I was big on what's the ball, the Alonzo Ball. I was hoping that we would get a distributor like that. But then they
Mhm.
said we had Kemba off a buyout for $8 million, $9 million a year. So I was like, that's great for the numbers. You know, he's not
Right.
getting 30, 35, 40 million a year.
Mhm.
So this is excellent. And I also said he's not getting 30 minutes a game anymore. You know, when he has D Rose coming behind him,
Right.
and then he's got Quickly and stuff like that. So I knew that his minutes would go down because of the whole knee situation and everything.
Mhm.
And I know Tibbs goes with the hot hand. And he hasn't been having a hot hand. There's been a few little spots where he's had the hot hand. And I'm not disappointed yet. You know, he's had some good games. He had some spots where he's knocking down a lot of games. Like you say, points has gone down, but his minutes have gone down too. Rebounds for a point guard, I'm not sure if that's a stat that I really will focusing on for somebody, at least, especially at his height.
Right.
The assists are down. The field goal percentage is up. We've seen how he's knocking those down. 3-point percentage is the highest it's been. And, again, it's a sample size. New season. It's still early in the season. Free throw percentage is down, and I guess maybe that's a mental thing. He's playing in New York. It's a new situation for him. It's exciting. Right. And I don't want to say I'm disappointed yet, but I was hoping to see more ankle breakers. I was hoping to see him cross a few people. I wanted to see that and see the guard and get all excited and everything. But I still think he's getting into it, new teammates. And he always says that he wants to get Julius to do his thing. And I've seen the coach take the ball out of his hand and give it to Julius. So I feel like he's not feeling like this is his team yet, or he's the floor general. Yeah, it just seems like Julius is running point forward, and I think Kemba's just kind of fit in playing his position without ruffling any feathers.
Right. Good point. Yeah. Anyone else?
You got it, Rick.
I was excited. You know, we hadn't had a marquee point guard in forever. And Kemba Walker was well known from his Charlotte days as, being an excellent point guard. I mean, his team didn't really go very far, but, that's not for lack of him trying.
Right.
He did okay in Boston. So, I wasn't expecting, for the whole organization to rise to the top, but I was happy that it was a good step forward. What it looks like now is he does look like he doesn't really know what is expected of him. Like I think he knows that we expect him to go out there and play basketball, but he still doesn't fit in sometimes when he was on the court. Sometimes I forget he's even there. So I think he needs to dig in, like really figure out what his role is going to be and do what he can. I know injuries has rendered him not to be as great of a player as he used to be, but it really hasn't stopped Derrick Rose from being amazing. So I feel like if he plays his game and really figure out who he is for the team, I think it'll be fine.
Okay.
I was extremely excited about it when we first signed him. I'm still okay with Kemba. I'm not completely I haven't jumped ship yet. I think he's struggling, and I think he will struggle. I think anyone who joins a completely new team who was already together and had a system prior to will struggle. I do think that there is more of a backup guard to Kemba that is more of a reality than people want to admit. I think at this point we kind of do have two backup guards in a way. But by committee, it's fine. You know what I mean? I think they can bounce off of each other depending on the night. But if we're being honest, I'm not sure if Kemba has it anymore to be like if we get to the playoffs and he just needs to lead this team for a game or two. I think he can do it. I don't think he has it physically anymore though. And I think that's what we're starting to see. And Dre mentioned the crossovers and all of those highlights. I think health has a lot to do with why we haven't seen it. He has flashes. There's a game
League.
here or there where he'll cross somebody up or a step back here or there. He's done it. Now, don't get me wrong. But it's to the level, the 26.5 minutes per game that he's averaging now. If he averaged 31 minutes a game like he did in Boston, would he be able to average 19 points a game? And I'm not sure. You know what I mean? Especially on this team, and also with what his body can do.
Right.
But I still like Kemba. I still, unfortunately, if there was a trade, like a point guard would have to go. You know what I mean? And especially if you're trading for a point guard, obviously. But if you want to keep these guys here, we're going to have to bolster the positions around them to keep Derrick Rose and Kemba Walker as our two-man guards. And, of course, quickly. But I just think at this point, Kemba might not have it in him to be a full starter anymore. You know what I mean? And I think that's okay. You know what I mean? Same thing with Derrick Rose. I think it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have concerns about his game coming in. Like, my concern was what would his availability be given the injuries. And the Knicks came into the season, and I've said this a few times, with assets, with money, with players, and you're going to sign a point guard who has some question marks. I think you do that when you don't have money and you don't have assets. So that was my concern. I didn't really have concerns about Kemba's game coming in, because I felt like even if he wasn't who he was at Charlotte, he would still help us. But I think I was wrong in that assessment. I think I was wrong, and I know it's early. It's 11 games, and I hope I'm wrong. But what I'm seeing is somebody who could probably play off the ball, catch and shoot threes, right? He's really good as if he gets a screen, pulling up right then and there for the three. But in terms of being able to get into the lane and draw a double team and kick out, I just don't think he's that anymore. And my biggest concern over anything is his defense. And I think that if he's not hitting shots, in my opinion, shout out to Tony Crow, big Kemba fan. And in my opinion, I think he's unplayable if he's not hitting shots, because my thought was he was always a liability on defense, but he was going to give you so much on offense that it would offset that. And that's not what we're seeing. And again, it could be early, that could still be coming, and that's great. But so far, I don't see that. So I'm seeing not great on offense, not great on defense. I don't think we're going to be able to keep up this pace. Something we talked about earlier in the show, this winning percentage on pace to win 52 games with Kemba and Fournier not being able to guard the perimeter, Randall letting people go through the, I mean, I know we wanted to upgrade our offense, and we did, but we might have went a tad bit too far to the other end. But again, it's still early. It remains to be seen. And I hope it changes. I got one tough question, though. This is a tough question, I think. Do we continue to start Kemba? Do we start IQ and bring Kemba off the bench with the second unit, like playing off guard? Or do we trade for a point guard and make him situational?
Make who situation?
Kemba. Yeah. Trade for a point guard, have Rose back him up, and Kemba is situational.
I honestly think if we trade for Kemba, it has to be for Kemba. It can't be the kids. They got too much potential. They're too young. It could go either way. It would have to be somebody like Rose or Burks or something. Even though he's not a point guard, even though they have him, they use him that way sometimes. It's like I don't want Kemba to go because he's from the Bronx. It's like this is New York. I want Kemba to just straighten up. Right. I do feel like I want him to use the kids, use the youth in situationals games. If you're not going to give Kemba the minutes, he already sat a game, and it was like the first game of a back-to-back. And I'm like, how do you know that he needs to be preserved for like the first game of a back-to-back? Unless they knew something. Sometimes we don't. Right. What do we know, right? But if you did trade, man, it would it would have to be Kemba, and we would have. That's why I wanted Dinwiddie in the beginning of the season, in the off season, because he's longer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He could defend multiple. He could defend the point guard and the shooting guard. A lot of times they do switches, and Kemba's over there on like a center or the power forward, and it's just like this.
Yeah.
This is no good. Like it's barbecue chicken down there. So
right. I mean, you don't have to trade him. You could continue to start him. That's an option too. Do you continue, to start him? I'm just saying, what's your opinion?
Yeah, that was the thing last year. Like, if we could get the wins we got last year with Elfrid Payton, although Elfrid is a way better defender, right? He's just a different style of player. The one thing he had was like defense, that he could play, he could defend multiple spots.
Are we back to first name basis with Elfrid? It happens fast, man. 10 games in, we're like
podcast, so I figured out this. But he could play defense, and that's why we went so deep into the season, like with winning the way we did, is because we could defend that position. So Kemba, like you said, like and Ricky said that earlier, like it looks like he's not even there.
Right.
It's like he's not making much of an impact at all. Like you said, if he's not shooting, if he's not knocking down threes, he's not really making an impact on the defensive side of the ball.
Right.
He's not shooting it. This is like, all right, well, get the kids out here. That's how.
Right.
But if somebody got traded, it would have to be Kemba, I think.
Okay.
But
I mean, you gave those options, but I mean, can we just continue to start?
Okay, I think so.
It's early. It's early. We don't know what the conditioning is. We don't know what what the coach is telling them to do, and it's a new team. Even Miami, when LeBron went there, like it took them a little while to figure it out. And once they figured it out, and I'm not comparing the teams saying that they're equivalent and all we have to do is figure it out. But when you join the team, you need to figure it out. And I just want to give him some more time. Like I think he earned that.
I think I agree. I think he does need some more time. Like I said, it's 10 games in. We were already talking about Elfrid Payton. So it's very, very early. So but regarding Kemba, I think if we did make a trade, it would have to be Kemba. Just because I think Derrick Rose is too much embedded into the fabric of this team for you to move him. I think quickly. I think he's too much of a workhorse. If he's not here, I think they respect what Quickly does so much in the gym that they wouldn't even think about including him in the trade. I guess unless it's for the right person, of course. But if it's just for a role player or someone to make the team a little bit better, I don't think they would trade Quickly for that. But I
don't even think we have the assets to make a trade, like a reasonable trade, unless you just got somebody.
Nah, we got assets. There's one thing we got. If there's one thing we got is assets.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I don't know if Quickly is somebody's gonna be taking Quickly. Like, oh yeah, we gotta. I don't know.
Oh no, it wouldn't. Any trade for anybody, it wouldn't be just one player for one player. You know
they don't want Knox. Nobody's taking Knox.
No, not by itself. I don't.
And that's the thing.
Package, I just feel like you get him. He's lengthy. You know what I'm saying? Him Quickly and Kemba, let's just say, and it's just like, all right, well, what are you getting for that? I don't know how valuable that would be. I think the assets that we do have, Josh, I guess to rephrase it, I don't think we're giving up the assets that we want to give up for like something that we need. Like if we're shipping somebody out, we don't want to get rid of McBride. Quickly, like there's guys that the team probably doesn't want to let go in the front office.
I mean, to be honest, this team is full of guys we don't want to let go. I mean, honestly, if we're really being honest, if we're talking about Kemba, so yeah, that might be one player you would include in the trade. But outside of Knox, I don't think anyone wants to trade anybody on this team. You know what I mean? Because we really like. Besides Steph.
In terms of us as fans, I thought you were talking about the front office. In terms of us as fans, absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Just on the fan level. Because we fall in love with players. Yeah, we fall in love with players. We don't want to trade them. Like we trade Obi and Quickly, there will be an uproar. It doesn't matter if the team got better or not.
I wasn't watching any more games. They got rid of Obi. So
you see what I mean?
Yeah, right. But this is what I will say. This is what I will say about Obi. He's stuck behind Randall, playing 10, 12 minutes a game. They're not going small ball. Randall signed an extension. He's not going anywhere. So what are you're gonna just keep Obi playing 10, 12 minutes a game, or you're gonna cash that asset in for a point guard or something else? Now, I'm not saying this is what we have to do, but I mean, these are the decisions that you have to think about.
That's it.
That's why I thought we would go do a little bit more small ball, given how Obi's game has grown, so that he can get more minutes on the court. But Tibbs is not doing that. So I feel like it's a wasted asset playing 12 minutes behind Randall.
I think a lot of that has to do, which I don't think people really notice. I think it has a lot to do with Mitch, and the fact that Mitch didn't play last year for the majority of the year, and now he's in this career year where he has a contract year. I gotta get back, and Tibbs is worried about getting him up to speed. And I don't think if he was here last year and he came into the year and he wasn't trying to get back up to speed, I think Obi would have a little bit more room. I think Tibbs would use him a little bit more. I think at this point he wants to get Mitch so involved into what they're doing. I think he's not allowing Obi to get on the court. Not because he's not allowing Obi to get in the court, but just he wants Mitch to be on the floor that much. And rim protection. You know how that is for Tibbs. He loves rim protection. But you know, like you said, he's stuck behind Randall. And unless a small ball lineup permanently enters his way into the doors of Madison Square Garden, Obi is not going to be as productive as he can be in that position.
He can be.
So we might have to come down to a trade one day, just for the betterment of his career. You know what I mean?
Right.
We think about ourselves as Knicks fans all the time, but a lot of these guys need opportunities to be in better positions so that they can be the player that they want to be. So I don't want to hold anybody back from doing that.
Yeah. And just my take on Kemba, I agree. I think we should keep it the way it is for now. We're still early. If he's playing well offensively and adequately defensively, then, give him the minutes. If he's not, which is what we've been doing, just, take him out, play roles, extended minutes. And I hope I'm wrong. I just don't see this backcourt getting us into the second round. I just don't see it. And I hope I'm wrong. All right.
Yeah.
Fournier, this might be the second week we don't get to RJ. I appreciate you guys' time, so I'm trying to stay.
Hey, listen, I understand. And you know me, I'm always here for some RJ talk, but I understand you don't got time.
No, I have time. I'm just trying to be respectful of you guys' time. So I always
Bring it on.
All right. Let's talk about Fournier real quick. I do want to talk about RJ. This will be the second week I didn't get to him. We talked about him a little bit, already in terms of your initial thoughts. I'll just move to the second question. Do you think his numbers will improve, or do you think, given this current roster, this is what we can expect from him?
Go ahead, Rick.
My God, I hope they improve. I think I like his game. I feel like when he pulls up, I don't ever feel shaky. I'm like, all right, that should be good. He's just not comfortable yet, and I feel like once he gets comfortable, he's gonna be a real threat. And they're really gonna have to scout for him and figure him out, and then have to deal with Randall and then RJ, and it's gonna be a real problem. So his numbers better improve. Is that an option to say? He's got to do better.
To be honest with you, I don't think it's a huge deal. I think it's a point, 1.3 points of a difference. Rebounds around the same. His assists are down. I think that's part of being on a new team. He's also playing a minute less, so maybe that might play into the point per game he's missing. But with the shooting struggles he's had, you know what I mean, for him to still be averaging basically 15 points per game, I think that's pretty good for someone who's like a third, fourth option on a team. Right. So I don't think it's terrible. I think he's the kind of role player we need, honestly. I think there's areas where he struggles, but the things that he does well are the things that we actually need on this team, especially with players like RJ, players like Julius Randle, who primarily get their buckets in the paint, you gotta have somebody like Fournier who can spot up. If someone closes out, put the ball on the floor and create a shot for yourself.
Right.
Absolutely.
I'm fine with the numbers at 15 points. I think they mentioned the other day 4 guys averaging plus 10. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that because Fournier doesn't have to be the main guy. Some games he'll have 30 like he did. What was it? Opening night. And some games he'll have 10. You know what I mean? Some games he'll have 7, but it's kind of a streak shooter that he is, kind of like a J.R. Smith kind of player. But you gotta have him on the team.
Yeah.
I think he's pretty much in line with what I think he's going to be for the season. Like you said, Cap, I think it's going to be nights where he has 30. Some nights he's going to have 15. But if he's averaging 15 points in this team, I don't think that that's a bad thing. If we have our leader and we have him, scoring on the wing, and I one of the big things this is one of the things I feel like with the team that I think the biggest glaring weakness we have on our team that nobody is talking about is our center position on offense. And I just think that if we had centers that could score and didn't rebound and they don't look at the basket, they don't look like they're interested in scoring. And that was the biggest problem in the playoffs against the Hawks last year. And I say that before, but so I don't think Fournier getting these numbers. I think Kemba getting his numbers. I think Julius getting his numbers. We don't have centers that really score at all.
Right.
And I just think that's a glaring weakness in our offense is the fact that no one is scared of our centers. And so I just say that to say that I think Fournier is going to be fine. It's again, we revisit this conversation later in the season. And I think these guys, they'll be doing fine. I think, these guys are still finding their way. I think they're doing good. I think Julius is an expectation that he knows how to do it. I think RJ, there's starting to be an expectation that he's going to drop this. I think, D Rose, they said he was averaging at least 14, 15 last season. So he gets that. Fournier, shooters are going to have a bad night, but I think I like Fournier. Like Ricky said, I like Fournier. I like the way he attacks the basket. He's not that great on defense. Sometimes I'm a little embarrassed for him because they drive and they stop on the dime and he's still running. But I think that was to be expected. But I actually like Fournier. I wouldn't want to lose him. I think he's pretty good. But I'm afraid he may be a trade piece. That's what I'm afraid of.
In December, I think they can be traded. In December,
December 8th or something.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I like the signing. Actually, I thought DeRozan was the better player, but I thought Fournier was the better fit. And just his ability to hit the three, to pass the ball, to the mid range, and I think he would be averaging more points right now. I just he's shooting 42.4%. He has wide open shots. Randall gets him in really good position, and he just has not been hitting. He could easily be averaging 17, 18
he's not
points a
comfortable
game.
yet.
Yeah, rhythm.
Yes.
Just rhythm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think once he gets comfortable and he knows where he sits, I think the game is going to come. He's got the new teammates. I think Fournier is going to be fine.
Yeah, I think he's going to be fine as well.
Yeah. At least the percentage. He said those numbers will go up. I was just saying that mostly the percentage numbers I think will go up.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think he's being as aggressive as he can be.
True.
And again, I think that's part of gelling. That's part of not wanting to step on Randall's toes and maybe just, camp out. And if you get the ball, you get it. If you don't, you don't. But I would like to see him be more than just a catch and shoot guy. And he's shown that, this season. But just to be a bit more aggressive. Yeah. Any other thing about Fournier before I ask this?
Nope.
Tough question. All right. So
John
another tough question.
RJ. He likes this is his favorite part.
Yeah, not yet. I got one more question. Do you think
she's gonna get right to it? Damn. She holding out. He at the edge of his seat already.
Right.
Almost fell off. Right.
Do you think we're better off with Kemba and Fournier, or do you think we would have been better off with Alvin Bullock? Is it too early to tell, or have you seen enough already to be able to answer that question?
Let me just say this. Let me start off because I don't think I think that I hated those two guys, Reggie Bullock. In a sense, I like Reggie could knock down the three. He couldn't put the ball on the floor at all.
No.
He couldn't dribble. He was scared half the time. Like he had that one play in the play that always sticks out of my head. In the playoffs, he had that travel during a fast break, and it was like,
oh my God,
how are you scared? Like what? So he never dunked the ball. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like Fournier already has that aggressiveness. And the other part with Kemba, he's a better shooter. He's a better ball handler, but not the defender. And so we see that defense being a liability. So I think that's an even trade-off pretty much. Like, I'd hate to say that if we had Alfred that, things would be better on the defensive end. So what? I just thought he was that terrible. But I think that by the end of the season, the middle of the season, I think by the All-Star break, by the end of the season, I think if there's no trade, I think that we are going to be grateful that we got these two guys.
All right. So you think it's too early to tell? You think that we're going to be fine down? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I think that it's difficult because it's 10 games versus the entire season, and last year Alfred and Reggie Bullock helped us get to the playoffs. And I know it's a very difficult argument to have, but it's just true. Trust me, I don't want to leave that argument.
Isn't this a coaching conversation also, though?
It can also be a coaching conversation, but right now we're just talking about Evan and Kemba. So I don't
do they make our team better?
Do they make our team better? It looks nicer.
On paper, right?
It looks nicer. I'll say that. Right now, from what I've seen, with the sample size that we have, it looks better, offensively, aesthetically. But I just think that I keep going back to that point of attack defense, and it's hard for me to really say that Evan and Kemba make this team that much better. Especially because we started off last year around the same. So
that's what I was going to ask. What was our first 10 games like? What rating were we at? Our first 10 games.
What were we like 6-4 maybe?
Well, didn't we have the issue last season? So we had some games where Julius would be burnt out, or if he wasn't having a good time, if he wasn't having a good game, then we would lose. There was no other scorers. So that's what we went and shored up. We scored some like Evan can score more than just like a 3-point shooter. He can drive to the basket. He can finish. And he can hit a mid range. He's got a better jumper all around. He can handle the ball. He's better in pick and roll.
Right.
And and then you got Kemba, who's a better shooter. So yeah, somebody who could score. Like that first game is one of the games where Kemba shot and Fournier shot. Those are the guys. They were like the main guys in those overtimes that helped us win the game, and that's what we needed: scoring. Now the defense and all of that stuff. It's one of those things where. Like say you look at the Lakers, right? They're supposed to be the best team ever, and you're looking at them, and they're like one of the worst right now.
Without LeBron, they look completely terrible.
Yeah, but so on paper, but you got to play the games. You still got to play the games. It's not like you can simulate these games and just based on the names and the stats. Right. You know what I mean? It's like fantasy basketball, but these dudes got to go out there and play the game.
Yeah.
You don't know if the team is better or not. You don't think the team is better.
I think on paper we're better. And when you look at the roster compared to last year, and if you just want to compare Elf to Kemba, Kemba's a better player than Alfred. If you want to compare Fournier to Bullock, Fournier is a better player than Bullock. But I think it's about who are we as a team. Right. With those two, are we a better team? And I think offensively we are better. Defensively we're not. And is it just too early to tell? The defense is going to get better, or is this going to be a trend where our offense stays in the top 5 and our defense is down in the bottom 5, and we have difficulty game to game? If our shot is on, we have a better chance. But if our shot is not on, we can't fall back on our defense. And I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying this is how it's looking now. So
Kemba's he's never going to be a better defender. He's the type of defender that he could get in the lane and pick off like some passes in between, like on ball defender. He's not going to be better. It is what it is at this point. I think that situations, if he puts a young kid in there and lets him scrap with one of these fast point guards that's running around out here,
right,
then maybe as far as the team defense is,
right,
that may be the alternative that we have to make
right,
to shore things up on the defensive end.
yeah, no doubt. I mean, if you made me choose, I will say that we're better off. We're better off with Fournier and Kemba, but
Mhm.
as a starting point, I think we still have to make a few tweaks to this roster. I don't think we can keep it the way it is. I like the shooting that we have. I like when Kemba is on. He doesn't need that, a lot of space to get his shot off. So we
No.
just got to get enough, or it could be even on the team. Maybe changing the lineups. It could be something on this team, or bring in somebody. We just got to get a little bit better with that perimeter defense.
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's move on to RJ. I talk often about the eye test versus the stats.
Mhm.
And when you look at the stats, it's not much different than last year.
Last year.
7.6 points last year, 7.6 this year, 5.8 rebounds last year, 5.9 rebounds this year, 3 assists last, 2.6
Mhm.
assists this year. Shot a little better last year, 44.1% field goal percentage. This year, 43.4. Free throws, 74.6. Here we go. This year, 74.3. I mean, it's really, really close. 3-point percentage was better last year, 40 to 38, 34.8. So statistically, not much difference. But in terms of the eye test, what do you think about his game this year, and have you seen any difference?
Dre, did you want to go first?
No, I want to Cap to go because Apollo was like, he's over there smiling. He's
There we go. No, I'm gonna go first because you know what I'm saying. I'm not gonna do the Reggie Bullock and pass it off when I get the ball. I will say that I think one of the shows we had last season and towards the end of the last season, and I believe Sim might have been there or no, I forgot, but no, he was in the chat because I think I remember him commenting on it. And he said that we were all saying that there's a realm where RJ can get better and his numbers don't necessarily improve,
right?
Because there's more people on the team, and there's more players touching the ball. If I don't know, if you ask me, Evan Fournier has touched the ball this season way more than Reggie Bullock has touched it all last season. You know what I mean? Because he's just that, you can trust him with the ball that much more. Especially his ability to get a pass and sidestep and still create a shot for himself. I just think that he's just a better offensive player. So when you have someone like that on the floor next to RJ, like I said, you have to have Evan on the floor with RJ because it makes his game better. It might not show statistically, but we're watching these games. It's a completely different RJ. Right. You know what I mean? It's a completely different RJ. The confidence level, how he's finishing at the basket. The numbers haven't really shown it just yet, but you can see there's certain games where no one else has anything going. And who do they go to? They go to RJ. You know what I mean? And for him to be 21 years old and to still be developing on a team with someone who just won the most improved player last year, a team with Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier who get a lot of those touches. They still get a lot of those touches. He's still averaging just the same as he did last year while he was the second option. You know what I mean? And I said it on our show that he's still going to be the second option on this team. I know that people were saying Kemba and Evan. RJ is the second option on this team. You know what I mean? I don't care what you say. RJ is the second option on this team, and that's until
sometimes he looks like he's the first option.
Yeah, and sometimes he looks like he's the first option. So I just think that the numbers don't show it yet, but with there being more and more games where he's going to be relied upon, because at this point they're starting to rely on RJ. I saw a game where RJ was on the bench, and they had everyone in the starting unit out there, maybe except for RJ, and they couldn't get anything going. And they threw RJ back in the game. It's like, listen, get us something, because they were trying to rest RJ. RJ was playing a lot of minutes that game, so they put him in there just for a little punch. We still ended up losing the game because it was just a full effort of everyone.
Right.
But I think that they're starting to trust RJ more, so we're going to start to see more of the RJ we've seen this year.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I mean, it's clear that he is a better player. The stats don't show, which is a good thing. It means that he's able to continue to perform and just perform at a higher level. So I think as the season goes on and he gets really comfortable, he'll turn into a higher caliber player. But I think for sure, just if you're watching any game of RJ, just the moves that he makes are a lot smarter. They're a lot smoother. They're cleaner. And
he's a lot bolder, more confident.
His passing, his passing has become better, a little more crisp passes, and so I think it's both. Something that you could look at and just tell that he's a better player.
Right.
The stats will, they're better, but this is kind of what you want from him anyway. 17 points, maybe 18 points, So he's doing all right. You probably want to get that 3-point percentage up, but. I
want to see him get some triple doubles.
Yeah, his 3-point shot has looked different. That's the only thing that's looked different. It looked a lot better last season, and so far this season he hasn't really gotten it going. But man, when he decides to go to the rim, forget about it.
There's also an aspect to his game now where he looks like the most fearless guy when it comes to people closing out. Like it's just taking, and that's just with the 3-point shot. Like you'll give. I've seen every other player in crucial moments. You get the ball and they miss. RJ gets the ball and he doesn't care who's closing out. He doesn't care who's in front of his face. He's gonna pull up every single time. And that's
shooting off the bounce.
He's shooting off the bounce. He's shooting off, and that's the confidence we want to see from RJ because we already know RJ's game is mainly mental. You know what I mean? He thinks a lot. He really, really thinks a lot. He has some boneheaded plays here or there, and I think that's just due to age. But I think his IQ is very, very, very high for his age. And I think that he just needs some time. I think he needs some more time, but I think towards January, February, we will be talking about RJ as an all-star for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm encouraged by how his game has evolved, right? I mean, the stats may look the same, but how he's getting his points is different. And I think that's where you're talking about growth. And that's where you're talking about becoming an all-star. Because if you remember last year, a lot of his shots was off the catch and shoot. Yeah. And if you're going to be a good player in this league, as Josh would say, you got to be able to go out and get a bucket. You got to be able to get a basket. And he was playing off of people so much last year. This year, the mid-range is going. He's going coast to coast, finishing right and left. Even though last game I thought he was going too much to the left. I mean, he were right here on the right side. Why are you crying? So I felt against Philly he was getting into his old habits of like really trying to go left when the right was right open. But he's finishing with both hands much better. He's finishing, period, much better. He's creating a shot off the dribble, like being able to hit the 3 off the dribble. That's huge. A lot of the good players in this league are able to do that and able to take his man off the dribble. So I think now we're talking about a more dynamic RJ. Now we're talking about something. So I like his work ethic. I like that he's better defensively as well. And I think as far as options, I think on this team, after he may end up with the more stats, more points per game. But on this particular team, it just seems we pass the ball around, and on any given night, it's basically who has the ball. But lately, I have been seeing RJ asserting himself, especially down the stretch, and that's much different from last year. Because I'm like, last year you could easily kind of, I wouldn't say take him out the game, but he wasn't somebody that was going to assert himself. He was just going to play within the flow of the game. If he got the ball, he got it. If he didn't, he didn't. Now He wants the ball, and when he gets it, he's trying to make something happen, either for himself or for someone else, and that makes him much more dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed the dynamic between he and Julius sometimes. I remember one game, it's just like he passed up the pass to give it back to Julius. It's like they run the same place. Somebody comes down the court, he gives it to Julius gives it to this guy gives it back to Julius. You know, so one time he gave it to RJ, and RJ just ran past him. Julius was waiting, and he turned around, and he's like, and I was like, did you see? I kept rewinding it to see if I saw it, but then RJ threw the alley-oop for Mitch on that one. And you can see Julius seemed like he was like, all right, you better have. And I saw one when Julius had the ball, and he looked over to the shoulder, and he almost passed it to him, and RJ's like, and they look like they frustrated with each other. But then you see the last game, and he knocked them to the floor when they were excited and stuff like that. So I see an interesting dynamic with them. I'm gonna keep my eye on that. I think it's pretty interesting. And sometimes I wonder, They're both hungry, and sometimes at the expense of the other. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you got to give up the rock. But I think Alfred was notorious for not passing the ball to RJ, especially last season. I think you pointed that out, Apollo. Right. And I think that he's like, I think something happened. He's like, nah, I got to take it sometimes. I think a lot of times you become that player, that great player. You got to say, nah, you know what? I see it. I got this one. I'm going to take this.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I see something. Yeah, no doubt about it. Anything else about RJ before we get into next week's games and close this out?
Nah, I'm good.
I saw one play.
I waxed poetic enough. I'm good.
I saw one play where he got blocked on an offensive play, and then they took it down and scored, and it looked like he wiped that thought completely from his mind. Because he got the ball back, he pushed it up court, and then made an easy lane to erase that last play. And I thought that was very big of him. A lot of times what I see Julius do is he dwells on the last play for too long. And I like that RJ, he was like, yo, water off a duck's back. He was done. It happened. He moved on. He's on to the next play, scoring again. And I like that. It's professional. And it's something that you can depend on. Like, you're not worrying about him crying about fouls or the ref calls. He wants to play ball. He wants to score. So I love that about RJ.
And that happens
short
a lot.
memory. Yeah. Short memory. Man.
That short memory is a good thing. It happens a lot with the Knicks. It seems like guys they don't get the call, and they don't get back on D. So the other team scores like a little extra, and I can't stand it when that happens. But the calls are bad. But RJ with that short memory, I think. Right, and him being a lot more confident. I love seeing it. I'm excited about him.
No doubt about it. And even when he didn't close that fourth quarter, I personally felt that he had earned that, even though he wasn't playing well. There's been games when Julius hasn't played well, and he comes back into the game. So I was expecting RJ to come back. He didn't, and he left Grimes in there. And granted, he wasn't shooting well. And I was like, wow, I wonder, how RJ feels about that. He didn't come back in the game. It happened last year as well, but he's a different player this year. And he played the rookie over him. But I remember thinking, nah, this guy, like you said, he has a short memory. That's not going to bother him. He's going to come back out the next game, and he's not going to try to overcompensate or what have you. He's just going to play his game. And that's what he's did. So he's very mature in that respect.
Yeah, I always mentally he has the fortitude of a veteran ever since he was a rookie, whatever, John, the mental fortitude of a veteran. But I just think that there's a lot. I looked in the chat for a second. I try not to look in the chat because then I get going off of stuff that's in there. Yeah, but I did see somebody in there like RJ looking like you look at RJ's numbers third year versus Kobe, and I always did that anyway. You know what I mean? Because I'm a maniac like that. But the number Kobe didn't average 20 until that. But that Kobe's not the only guy. You know what I mean? There's a bunch of guys that in their third year wasn't doing what RJ was doing. It doesn't mean that he's going to be better. It just means that he's somewhere along those lines. You know what I mean? And that, to me, that's the only thing that's important. I don't want him to be the next Kobe. And, everybody was calling him the Maple Mamba. And he, clearly wanted he embraced it, but then he told people to stop calling him that, especially after, the passing of Kobe. And that was just something that, didn't sit right with him. But I think that he's going to be a really, really good player. I just think that he needs the ball a little bit more, and I think he'll earn that. It doesn't need to be right now. You know what I mean?
Right.
He doesn't need to. It might not even have to be the season, but it will
Right.
happen at some point. So
Right. I mean, the flip side of that, and I'm not trying to throw cold water on it. We've also seen players who excel their first few years in the league and leveled off. You know,
Yep.
always
Yeah.
think about Green, who's now he moves around a lot. I think he's with Denver now. If you look at his first few years in the league out of Georgetown, you know, he was great. And then, you know, at some point it leveled off. So it's really hard to tell. Some guys get off the slow starts and then
Right.
have, you know, Hall of Fame careers. And other guys start off really hot and level off. But if you had asked me to put my money on it, I would think that he's going to be a very, very good player. He reminds me a lot of Paul Pierce. Now, if he can get clutch like Pierce,
Crafty. Yeah.
that would be because Pierce would kill us at the
Yeah.
last shot of a game. You know, he was just clutch. Jeff
Right in that
Green.
mid range.
Thank you,
Right in that
Pete.
mid range. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to next week's game. I call it Revenge Week. I think we're playing I know we're playing Milwaukee again. We're playing Indiana again, and then we're playing Charlotte, who got off to a really hot start, and then have lost their last 5. Yeah, and they're
That
on
game
the
versus
West
the Lakers
Coast.
last night was crazy.
Right. So right now Milwaukee is 4-6. They've had a lot of injuries. Chris Middleton, I think, will still be out for that game on Wednesday. I'll take it any way we can get it. You're right about that. How about Brogdon missed? Well, we'll get to Indiana. Charlotte's 5-7, and they started out 5-2. We haven't played them this season yet. Miles Bridges is having a career year.
Yeah,
actually,
he's looking like Vince Carter out there, man.
right. And then Indiana again. They're 4-7. We beat them. No, they beat us. Yeah.
Indiana beat us.
Indiana beat us. Yeah, 0-1. And they also had a tough schedule and early injuries. So Brogdon missed like the 3 games before us, played against us, and I think he's been out ever since. He just came back for that game, and he's been out ever since. But anyway, any initial thoughts about these 3 games next week?
We can't lose to the Pacers or Orlando. I know that. Those games we got to come back.
He's in Orlando. Oh, in Indiana. My bad.
Indiana and Orlando, both of those games. Like
we have to win those games. Yeah.
We got to win.
We have to get those now. Charlotte, we would be saying that, of course, but you know how the Knicks are. Milwaukee, at this point, they're losing so much they might just walk up in there like they're gonna get it. Who knows? But I still say 4-0 the next 4 games. We got that.
Wow.
You
got an extra game that's not even on the schedule.
The eternal optimist. You always gonna get to 5-0, whatever, NO with Dre. Milwaukee, I think we have a better shot at Milwaukee. I'm starting to realize the trend with us. We play better against teams with bigs that
big men, it's like
that don't necessarily get out to the perimeter. Charlotte, they shoot pretty well. They get out in the open floor. I want to see the adjustments in how much Tibbs plays Mitch in that game. And Indiana as well. So I'm going to go 2-1. I'm gonna go 2-1. I feel like we can pull out a game versus Indiana and Milwaukee. I think Charlotte is just, since we haven't played them, they'll just come in and punch us in the mouth early, and then we'll just be fighting the whole game to catch back up. And then that's probably how we would end up losing that game. But I don't think they'll like blow us out or anything.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
think,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say Drew Holiday will be back. He's back. He came back like 20 minutes or so, but he's back starting now. So he'll be back for the whole game. And I'm not sure if Brogdon will be back.
We ain't scared of Drew or Brogdon.
I think we're gonna show up for Milwaukee. I think Chicago's gonna give us some trouble. And I think the pride of us losing the way we did last time to Indiana is going to push us to take them out. So I think we'll be 2-1. I think Chicago may
Charlotte.
find a way to beat us. What did I say?
Chicago.
Charlotte. I think they're gonna find a way to beat us. The same way Cleveland. And not to take away anything from Cleveland, but I think some reason they're just gonna win this game.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about the guard. The guard play with Charlotte. They got LaMelo Ball, they got Terry Rozier, and even Ish Smith was playing well the few games that I saw them earlier in the season. And I hope they get a win before we play them.
Yeah, because
they might be due, right? They might be due. I could see 2-1. I could see 2-1. I'm hoping. I'm not sure what's going on with Noel, but he would definitely help us in that indie game because I think he's a bit more mobile. I know he's a bit more mobile.
He'll get out on the perimeter more.
Yeah. Than Mitch, and so I don't think Miles, would go off the way he did. And hopefully, if he's not, we'll go small ball and see if that will help. Because I don't see Miles as somebody, if you close out on him, that he's going to put the ball on the floor and dribble into the key, right?
No.
Right. You just got to be able to cover him. So, I would say, 2-1 as well. I think Charlotte is, first of all, I think all these games are going to be tough. Like, I don't think you could take anybody for granted, even if they're even if there's, injured players. I think all of the games are going to be tough, but I could see us 2-1. Milwaukee is going to want to, come back and win that game. Yeah. I think Brook Lopez is still out as well. But I would say 2-1, but I don't know which game I would say is a loss. Because it's hard to beat
New York
team
right now.
Right. It's hard to beat a team twice. It's not back to back, but it's close enough, So I think it's going to be a tough week for the Knicks, but I say 2-1.
Okay. Yeah, is the Charlotte game at home? No, that's a we play them.
Away.
Yeah,
but we got New York fans all over Charlotte. So.
Oh yeah, trust me. Yeah,
it's almost like a home game.
Every time I go to a Charlotte game,
Fulio will be at the game.
Yeah, I spoke to Fulio about that. Fortunately, I won't be here. I will say fortunately because it's for my anniversary, so I won't be able to attend the game. I would have been, but every other time I've gone to a Charlotte game, this way. If not equal, there's more Knicks fans in there than there's Hornets fans. So I'm not really worried about that. But yeah, that's just it. I think the 2-1, like you said, that's the only point I have to say.
Okay. All right. Any last words or any questions you wanted to ask that, perhaps I didn't ask?
When you gonna have us on your show again, Steph? Come on.
Yeah.
we already missing you. Come on,
definitely. Anytime. You guys got an open invitation. This has actually been very fun, actually.
Excellent. Wait, what's the record so far? 7-4. What's that? 11 games. So the next 11 games we see where we are.
See where we at.
Right.
Yeah,
definitely. Any last words? Anyone else?
No, that's pretty much it. I don't have anything. Thank you for having us on. I appreciate you reaching out. We definitely got to have you on the show as well. My computer is down. Clearly, that's why I'm on my phone today.
I think that's a wrap.
Listen, the entire show has been on this screen.
So, man,
you finished, boy.
So you were right.
How much crypto you need? Yeah, how much crypto? Where's my wallet?
Yeah. So thank you for having us.
Yeah, man, and that was a beautiful intro you did first. Also, I thought that was really nice.
Teary-eyed.
Nah, I like you guys chemistry. So when I'm doing notes or I'm doing something, I'll look and I try to catch up. I try to show love all over.
Right.
And sometimes I just can't catch it live. So I'll go back. I'm like, I think Gmo had a show. I think I'm gonna have to make a calendar. So I always try to hit everybody like at least once a week, and watch a show. And I watched you guys, and the chemistry was good. The information was good. And I said, well, let me listen to it. It was an old one. I mean, that one was up to date. But then after I listened to that, I liked it so much. I went back and I was watching like old ones, you know, that
that's
was
That's what's up. That's
yeah.
love.
So
That's love.
I definitely
Yeah.
appreciate you guys taking the time out. You guys are content creators as well.
Mhm.
This is Knicks season, it's busy season for all of us. So for you
Right.
guys to take time out to be on another show, I really appreciate your time. I was trying to keep it to like an hour and a half, but we didn't get a
Knicks
chance
basketball.
to.
That's what
Yeah,
happens.
yeah. Definitely. So
And shout out to
yeah.
the chat as well, man.
Oh
Thank you
yeah,
for
your
shout out
chat
to the
is
chat.
lit,
as well.
They live. They were
Yeah, live.
They had their own
Yeah.
conversations going.
Yeah, I was like, they ain't even listening to us. They just go back and forth.
Right. They was going
And
back
like,
and forth. Definitely shout out to the chat. The Knicks chat is crazy. You would think that there isn't enough room for one more show, but whenever there is,
There you
the
go.
Knicks, they still there watching it. So
Yep.
definitely appreciate you. I think Still Knicks Fan Show started at 10:15. So the link is in the chat. You can get over there. Saturday the 13th, I am doing a Queen's Court special with Stephen Fox. And we're going to be breaking down the first 13, 14 games of the Knicks. So that'll be Saturday, November 13th at 8 p.m. If you know anything about the Fox, he's really good with his takes and his slides as well. I'm actually looking forward to his slides, you know?
okay.
So yeah, thank everybody for being here. Oh, right. Yeah. He put it in the chat. Yeah. Thank you guys again for being here. I really appreciate it. All love all the time. And we out of here, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey.
See you next time.
Peace.